My question is for the treasurer and the auditor. You guys are here clearly to field some questions, evidently, and it appears that you're an advocate to help the public here in Portage County. You have all of the resources and ability to inform the citizens in the county. Why haven't you taken those resources and utilized them?
Are you talking about the issues we're talking about here tonight?
Oh, I'm talking about, the reappraisal and what to expect. And, you could send a mailer out to everybody in the county to inform them about what's going on and to advocate for this potential petition that they're going to put together.
Well, I can tell you, I just heard about the petition within the past couple of days, but what I will tell you is Treasurer Kennedy and I have been out to dozens and dozens of public meetings.
I know that.
Yeah. Talking about the radio. I've been on the radio talking about this issue also for exactly the reason you're talking about, is to make sure people know to come to events like this, ask questions, find out what's going on. I can't tell you how many times that people have come up to the office or out on the street at the Ravenna Balloon Affair and said, hey, I'm already signed up for the homestead exemption. I don't need. Well, let's check and make sure you are. About half of them, I find out they think they are, but they're not. That's a tool that we can use right now to reduce our taxes for the 65 and older age group. So that's, I think, a benefit of getting out, getting accessible to the public, getting on the radio. I sent out at Aurora, I handed out 1,000 little postcards.
I've heard all that.
Yeah, okay.
I have. You already spoke of everything that you just said already. Currently, I was here. I heard every inch of it. But you have the ability to reach out to every homeowner in the county and inform them about what the movement is. Will you advocate to do that?
Well, 100%. 100%.
Give you a little bit of fact here that I have. School districts in the state of Ohio have the right to charge income tax. Only 217, I think, out of 606 schools actually do it. So it's a whole mechanism for them to fund their schools that most of them do not take advantage of.
Thank you. And just to go off of that handful of things, first, that's an excellent point. At the local level, remember, the property taxes do not actually come to Columbus. Property taxes are solely a local function and pay for local services. In fact, the state of Ohio, our sales and income tax, the state of Ohio actually cuts a $2 billion check every year to local governments for the credits and to help with homestead, help with veterans, help with different credits that property owners enjoy. So property taxes stay local. Counties, villages, cities, schools could decide tomorrow, we have given them the tools. We actually don't even need a constitutional amendment. We've given them the tools to move that burden off of property and either onto sales or onto income tax or some variation of that. So we already actually have that ability right now. Now, when it comes to schools, the DeRolf decisions, we all know, happened many, many years ago. What those actually said, not that property tax itself was unconstitutional. Back during that time, we relied majority on property taxes for schools. And so how they actually viewed it was that depending on what student went to what district, you were getting a much worse education if you were in a poorer area because only the property taxes could support it. The court decision wasn't actually really looking at the taxpayers' fairness. They were looking at the students' fairness. Now, since then, we've had about 7 different formulas. Currently, we're on our most recent one, the Fair School Funding Formula. We as a legislature, you as taxpayers, for your sales and your income tax, every 2 years has given almost $1.5 billion more to our public school systems than in the previous year. We as a state contribute from our sales and our income tax over $15 billion to public schools. We as property owners contribute several $billion less than that. So we do have a majority funded through our sales and our income tax. Schools are able to shift some of that, reduce their property tax, either have an income tax or decrease their tax rate as many other schools have done. But if you all hear that we are defunding public education at the state level, that is simply not true. We are funding public education more than we ever have with your sales tax and your income tax dollars. And we're attempting through many of our bills this year to decrease your property tax burden all the same. But schools can do that. Counties, villages, cities, municipalities can do that right now as well.
May I have 1 moment? I have had the chance to speak with some of the schools in our district. And it is true that depending on your location or what district you're in or your property tax funding, some of our schools do feel the burden of being defunded in the governor's proposed budget. This is, there are many factors that are contributing to this understanding. However, the most recent governor's budget has fully funded the Cup-Patterson Fair School Funding Formula. They have fully funded the final phase of that funding program. So the only issue now that the schools have informed me, and I have some really great Board of Education members here I know that I've spoken with, the only issue now is that some of those inputs that they're requesting for additional funding have not been included in the governor's allocations. So that's where we're at, and we're in negotiation. And if they were, they'd be next to 1.5 billion.
That'd be an extra $1.5 billion that we'd be giving, in addition to everything from the property tax side, in addition to everything we've already done over the past several years. So as was said earlier, we have a spending problem in our local government, largely our schools, frankly.
And we've all come to rely on that, so it's hard to take that away. It's a negotiation.
We also have state programs that are not funded by the state, but they're mandated by the state that we only give partial payments on. Explain that to everybody.
If you would allow me to come to you, you have a question, let me come to you, raise your hand. We do have a line of other people. Thank you.
You want to let him finish? Or answer his question?
So his question was related to the state's demands on the outcomes or the expectations of our school districts in educating our children. So the concern is that they are not receiving the state funding that they need to be able to meet the standards that the state has placed on the education programs in our public schools. So that is something that is a major concern in many of our districts. I'd like to just point out here real quickly that between the years 2020 to 2022, just 2 years after COVID, the administration costs of our K through 12 schools, public school systems, increased by somewhere around 70%. In addition to that, the benefits to provide to our administrators increased by somewhere around 160%. So the majority of the administrative costs are going to providing benefits because healthcare is so expensive. So this issue is not just about funding our schools, taking care of our children, taking care of our teachers, and making sure we're doing this right. It's about we have serious issues in other areas as well. So there's a lot to consider when we think about this. Do you want to take the next question?
I just wanted to add to that while she's going to ask. On that CUP data, you can see how many administrators there are per pupil. So if once we get that data up, that's a very interesting look. We had a slide that we cut tonight. The number of administrators per student is out of control across the state. And that's something that your school board should do something about, but they become a rubber stamp to the superintendent or whoever because they don't take the time to look deep. So again, it's all hands on deck. It's all across the board. We've got to make changes. Next one.
Remember when you had one agenda and it was seize the day.
I commend you for being here. I love the fact that you guys are here and the rest of them aren't and don't show up for those things. But the problem is that we're going to rely on state representatives to do this as far as the funding is concerned. It ain't going to work. The only thing that I see after 50-some years of hearing about this is that a constitutional amendment to get rid of property taxes is a way of funding schools. Now, I haven't looked in detail at your proposal, but I'm sure that's something that can be worked out. It's something that can happen.
I have to say that I was kindly invited to join a Board of Education meeting at Southeast Schools, and I was informed firsthand the struggles that they have with their funding, and the governor's Fair School Funding Program. So I certainly take that into consideration when I go and work for you in Columbus. However, I do want to say, although I am a freshman, I am doing everything I can to fight on this issue. So there needs to be credit given where credit is due.
My name is Iris Meltzer, and I'm a Kent resident. I've been here in Portage County for close to 50 years. Thank you all for coming, and all of the elected officials. I think it's important that we see you and you see us. I do have a question probably directed primarily to the two state reps that are here. There's been a lot of bashing tonight of the amount of money going to public schools and bashing of public schools themselves. My question is, how much of the money that you've indicated are going to public schools are actually going to charter and private schools?
Sure. So of the $15 billion that I mentioned, that is the public school portion. Now, Ohio believes, and I firmly believe this, I won't speak for Representative Workman, Ohio believes that the money that we all pay in our taxes should follow the student. That what's in the best interest of the student should be what is their educational choice. So we do have a very strong voucher program here in the state of Ohio. For students where their public school does not meet their need, they're able to have then the option. Our property tax does not follow the student. Our property tax stays with the local school, but our state income and our state sales tax does follow the student. Now, I have a very hard time agreeing with the idea that if there are less students in a school, that school should still be receiving the same amount of money for not educating the less students. So,
passed on to the charter school.
yeah,
Passed on to the charter.
the money follows the student. When the student graduates, the money ends. The money should not still be going to the public school that is not educating the student. Thus, the public school will lose some of that money because they are not educating the student.
Remember when you had one agenda and it was seize the day.
Hopefully that gets improved here going forward. But I know Heidi's called me many times saying, hey, what are you hearing? You know, what things can we do, especially veterans? I'm a veteran myself. I like hearing good things that are going to be done for our veterans.
You can dream.
Thousands of Northeast Ohio homeowners are seeing big changes in their tax bills this year in the wake of state-mandated reappraisals and voter-approved tax hikes.
Yeah, where does it end?
Investment firms swooping in and buying up some of the only affordable homes in your neighborhood.
They raised it $600 last year. They raised it $2,000 this year. I'm going to have to sell my home. Is that fair?